Hey neighbors, it's Dan Bader, and welcome to another episode of Around the Lake podcast. I am walking around the lake today. It's September 29th, Sunday, with my newest walking companion. Her name's Fletcher. She's a rescue that we picked up at the Lake County Fairgrounds at a big adoption event this weekend. She is the sweetest dog and cuddly and a little bit the opposite of Watson, so she's a really good fit for our family. We're walking now just to practice some leash skills alone. We spent a lot of walking this weekend, just getting Watson and her acclimated to each other and her used to us, and realize that we're her family now. She is a husky mix, which is probably one of the reasons we adopted her, because the dog that we lost when we first moved here was also a husky mix, and we loved her, and she was with us for 16 years, and we still miss her. So Fletcher here is a little throwback to her. It's just about the golden hour, so I'm going counterclockwise to keep the sun at my back for most of the walk. At least that's the hope. Gosh, the prairie has changed so much in just 2 weeks. Moving towards those browns of late summer, early fall. And the purple flowers, I think they're aster, but I'm probably wrong, are just gorgeous against the brown. And the lake is so blue, and the sky, the cloudiness has kind of moved out, and it's puffy little clouds. It's just amazing. In today's episode, we're talking to Gwen Riccio and Douglas Nergy about Frightfest, which is coming up later this month, or later in October, I should say. Still got another day of September here. And just about all the work that goes into it and all the volunteers, and a little bit about what it was like when they started living here, and just what they bring to it and what everybody brings to it. So I hope you really enjoy it. Fletcher and I are going to keep walking here and doing some leash work, try to get her a little better behaved and a little more accustomed to being on the leash, and also get her know Prairie Crossing a little bit. So, all right, well, here is Gwen and Douglas. Fletcher, stop. Good girl. Okay, let's go. Joining us today on the Around the Lake podcast is Gwen Riccio and Douglas Nergy. Thank you guys for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
So first, let's start with introductions. We don't know each other that well, any of us. Gwen, let's start with you. Tell us, when did you move here? Tell us about your family and where you live.
Yeah, sure thing. So my husband and I moved here back in 2006. So we've been here about 18 years now. And we live over on Blazing Star Road near the other gazebo fire pit. When we first moved in, we actually bought a condo. We lived in the condo till we had our son. And then when we were pregnant with our daughter, we moved into a house nearby. And so I've got a 13-year-old son and an 11-year-old daughter now. And I actually am right around the corner from this guy.
Yeah. Okay. Douglas, tell us about you.
I'm Douglas Nergy. We moved in here in 2003, so it's been about 21 years. I have almost a 21-year-old girl and an 18-year-old boy, and we love Prairie Crossing.
Okay. Well, so the subject of today's episode is Frightfest. Just before we hit record, you guys told me you didn't know exactly when it started, but tell me your first experience of Frightfest and where it was and what it was like.
You want to start because you've been here a few years longer than me?
Not too much, but I think I started in 2006 or 2005, and I was just a scarer at having a scare stations. It's just been a lot of fun. It's kind of like theater. So it's been a lot of fun, and so that's when I started way back when.
Okay, how about you, Gwen?
So I started attending Frightfest probably right after my son was born. So that would have been 2011, would have been the first one, because I have a picture of him like in his little wrap on the hayride. It was extra cold. I had to put like my jacket over it that year. And that was when we were still living in the condos. So it was really great because it was right down. At that point, it was Liz and Aaron who were in charge of it. And so at that point, we could just walk downstairs and get to meet people in the neighborhood because there was a lot of, especially at the start, separation between the condos and the homeowners. So getting to know more people, getting to be a part of the community events. And I love Halloween. So it's an event that I think there's only been maybe one of them we haven't been able to make it to.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess I just learned, and so I'll share, I guess, that there are two components of Fright Fest. There's I guess, front of house and then maybe a back of house or a party and a haunted hayride. How do you guys characterize? I know Gwen's in charge. Well, tell us, Gwen, what's your part?
So I just took over last year from my neighbor, Victoria. And I run, as you'd call, the front of house side of things. So I coordinate on the main end. I get the permits for the road closures. I set up the activities, food truck, waste management, facilities, activities, all of that. And then we sell the tickets for the spooky hayride, which Douglas is in charge of. So he handles the back end with the scares and the spooky stuff.
Well, and before, because I really want to hear about that, but I have a feeling I know where you're going. So can you tell me, like, how many volunteers does it take at that front of the house? And it sounds like a lot of coordination.
It is, and that's one of the things that's hard sometimes is trying to make sure you've got people for everything. I do have, actually right now for this year, I sent out a sign-up genius for volunteers for that night, and it's going to be in the newsletter coming out with more information because there are some things it definitely needs help with the night of or the day before with setup. We need a couple volunteers selling tickets throughout the night, monitoring stations throughout the night. Also, one of the big important ones for the hayride to go off is people loading and unloading and taking the tickets at the hayride to make sure everyone gets on and off safely and smoothly. But for the most part on the front end, I kind of have been, making scavenger hunts at my home on the computer and making calls and setting up Halloween decorations. I just spray painted something today to make like a spooky fireplace ember thing.
I can't wait.
Yeah, but like I said, I like Halloween, so it's fun to do, but we can always use more people, especially if they're keeping an eye out there for sign up. Because I was saying somebody else as easy as, taking a spot sitting by the fire pit for an hour, just manning it and chatting with people, and they're not big tasks, but we do need people.
Yeah, the first year I came, someone recruited me to light the fire in the gazebos when it was still kind of on that green area there. Yeah, and so I just started a fire. That's it.
And Gwen, how many different little stations do you have at the front of the house?
So last year we had the spooky bus. We're not able to do the spooky bus this year, but we had that. We have the haunted hallway, which is something I started doing where I decorate one of the breezeways, kind of like a mini haunted house.
Yeah, that was cool last year.
Free, so the kids can just explore and play. We have a scavenger hunt where it's who stole the Halloween candy. So they get to go around Station Village and find the clues and come back and tell us based on, I saw the person, they had fangs or they didn't have a hat. And then they can get a piece of the stolen candy as their reward. And then Dalton's will be open, and we have Cerna's Grill coming this year for the food truck. We have a pumpkin carving competition. There's a 12 and under and 13 and over, 2 categories this year, because it was really hard judging like an adorable toddler pumpkin versus an amazingly carved 15-year-old's pumpkin.
Right.
So I thought we'd split it up for that. And then we're going to have the Millers are letting us use the Gaga Ball again. And
That's awesome. Yeah, kids love the Gaga Ball pit.
Yeah, and then the fire
Huge
pit.
sport.
Tom Brady is going to be manning our fire pit, and we were able to get a donation of firewood this year, of this really nice kiln-dried firewood. That's the link's going to be in the Meadow Mix as well, in case anybody wants more information on it. But we have a few stations. It's not overwhelming, but there's hopefully enough activities to keep everybody busy for a while.
Yeah, and then since you probably saw them the most, are there mostly Prairie Crossing residents that are the guests for this, or has it turned into a community, larger, maybe Grays Lake event?
It's still really the community. It's hard because we do have such a involved community here that we already have like about 400 people go through the hayride. And so it would be hard to fit that many more people on. So it's not that if you've got somebody at your house they can't come with, but we definitely aren't encouraging people to like invite their
Right.
whole class or anything.
Yeah, there's no signage out there or
There's-
anything.
No,
Yeah.
we're not putting it anywhere public. It's really just a neighborhood thing, and we understand,
I
parents bring their grandkids and things
Yeah.
like that, which is wonderful.
that
Yeah.
question came because last year it was there just seemed to so many people there. I'm like, this can't be all Prairie Crossing folks. So I guess it can be
Yeah,
for sure.
well, and you do, and then you get some, where maybe the teenagers bring their best friend with them or something like that. So it's not 100%, but the majority are Prairie Crossing.
Okay. And they're and for that like fun festive feel, there's also a little spookier angle to it, and that's where you come in, right, Douglas?
Yeah, and first of all, a couple shout outs. First of all, Gwen and all the volunteers. We didn't mention the non-haunted ride, but Gwen arranges a non-haunted ride at the beginning. And how many rides are there for that?
So it depends, but usually we try to get in about 4 or 5 of the regular rides that start during the beginning with the kids. Because I forgot, there's also a costume parade. So we start,
right. Oh, that's
bring
right.
the pumpkins, do the things, the costume parade, and then we're having the non-scary hay rides, which still get to go through the prairie. You still get to see cool decorations. It's just not so much of the creepy clowns
Yeah.
chasing you down the
Little PG-13 angle, right?
Yeah,
it's a little
but it's
G-rated.
It's really fun. Like I went on that one. I still like going on that one. I've gone on that one for years. Even last year, even though my kids wanted to go on the scary one, we still went on the regular one too.
Yeah, I mean, we have 2 littles that, while one tries to be really brave and says she loves spooky things, the G-rated ride is more her
Yeah.
speed. Yeah. But I also have a 12-year-old who's really enjoyed your angle to it. So tell me how.
Yeah, so
How and that works.
it's first of all, it's been a lot of fun. I want a couple shout outs. First of all, to the condo, whoever I think it's whoever is the condo owner, because they let us use that area.
Patrick.
Patrick, thank you. And then Liberty Prairie for letting us use those 2 areas right where the Gaga Ball pit is and everything else. So thanks again. Our homeowners board for letting us have this event. So just a couple shout outs for that. So first of all,
Condo board as well.
and the
Yeah.
condo board, thank you.
Definitely much appreciated.
So at the beginning, we kind of like Gwen and I going back and forth. We try to figure out a date. I contact scares and try to get new people on board because we need more scare stations. We have about 7 now. We've had up to 12 in the past, so that's been a lot of fun. But just getting the drivers for the route, because they have to sit there and drive for 5 hours, right? We have to get insurance for the wagon that we now own, and Liberty Prairie actually lets us use park the wagon at the farm, which is kind of cool. I think Gwen kind of mentioned it, but she does like save the date in the metal mix and writes an article, and
Yeah.
so that's a lot of work too that you do. I mean,
Well, and
it's-
you're both here, right?
Yeah,
Doing
yeah,
this. Yeah.
I think I don't know if you mentioned or not, but we're getting space heaters donated this year as well. So just arranging that and getting those dropped off, and the generosity of the whole neighborhood. We go through I go through the scare stations and like try to figure out a stop time. So there's like a script for the wagon, so they can stop 30 seconds at this one, 10 seconds at this one, etc.
Oh, interesting.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah, because we really have to keep it kind of on a time schedule, because for loading people on and doing tickets, you have to do a lot of mental math. If we're getting about 20 to 25 people, if the hayride's taking 20 minutes, but if some of them are taking 25 minutes, then we're bumping, and we actually can lose like a whole hayride
Yeah.
amount if we're not kind of keeping it. So we're trying to do our best on the front and the back end to help it run smoothly and on more of a routine schedule and time.
Right. Because you don't want to sell tickets that you can't accommodate.
We
Yeah.
stopped selling tickets at like 7:20 last year and had full hay rides all the way up until just after 10.
That just leads me to a question, right? What are the hours for it? What I have always shown up for the pumpkin carving contest at early because we have littles, but generally, what are the hours of the Frightfest?
Yeah, so the younger kid activities and the pumpkin carving competition kick off about 4 p.m. So you can, if you're doing a pumpkin, you can drop it off earlier in the day or on Friday. I'll be over there setting up on Friday as well. And that's going to go kind of around the fountain area. And at that point, the haunted hallway will be set up. The kids can start doing the scavenger hunt. Dalton's will be open. The food truck's not going to start till closer to 5:30. around that time is when we do the costume parade around the circle. The non-scary hay rides start around 4:30, and then those will go right up until it's time to start the scary hay rides around 6. So we're gonna start. I want to make sure we're gonna start selling the scary hayride tickets at 5:45. So at 5:45, because I know some people want to come and buy tickets and then go and come back. We're gonna start selling them at 5:45 so that everybody has the same opportunity to line up and get their tickets and do it that way. And then the hay rides go. We try to be done around 10.
Right, because we have to the scares, I mean, it's all on their own dime, first of all. Thank you for all the scares. Right. And Gwen probably spends a lot of money herself just with all the decorations. But it's a long, day for the scares as well, because they have to set up their sets and then take them down before the end of the night. So
I interrupted you. You were saying that you have a script for the driver and then...
each scare station has their kind of own script. And it could be as complicated or as simple as, sometimes we have just stationary stations, which is kind of fun. And we have other people that are just, we call them jump scaring, right? Where they just kind of jump out and scare people, right?
Yeah.
So it's really is a blast. And I want to, I'm sorry, on the truck too, we also have music. And I want to thank Chris Mallon for over the years kind of hooking up that soundtrack and having a track. So it's a big community event, and lots of people participating over the years. I also want to mention that there's little things that like the boxes that go over the streetlights, right? Someone has to I store the boxes in my house, which is not a big deal, but someone has to put those on and then take them off, and so it's nice and dark. Yeah. Unfortunately, this year it's going to almost be a full moon. Believe it or not,
It's going to be a bright night.
It'll be a bright night.
Okay. So do you still do a scare station?
Yeah, I do a scare station. Yeah, I have one.
His wife also has one of her own.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So you guys run two. What kind of work does it go just from yours when to do a scare station? I know they can be as hard or as easy as you want.
Well, I have to say, I mean, it's been. I've had really elaborate ones. I don't want to give away what I'm doing this year, but I'm going to go and build a really big box when I get back to my house. But it's. I always think about the Frightfest. It's about the journey. It's about about getting there, and we do a soundtrack. And I'm going over to Mallon's tonight, and we're going to do a sound and voice over some stuff. And but we're painting and sawing and and buying costumes and
it's lots of different levels, because you've got sometimes where the group will do almost like a little mini scripted show where they're in specific costumes, and sometimes they change. I remember one year the treehouse, all the women dressed up like creepy dolls. It was an all-women one, and they all dressed up.
That's my wife.
Yep, that was his wife. And they all dressed up like creepy dolls. And you have a large group of guys that do usually the creepy clowns. And for them, they change it up a little, but they've got kind of their standard, these are our outfits, these are how we do. So once you've invested in it, it's not an every year super extensive build. And we've even talked if there's people that are interested in having one or having a station or doing something, but they're not in the position to build something elaborate, that there's always people who can help on that end who maybe aren't able to do the actual scaring bit. So it's something you can even partner with other people or have a team where you're like, us 10 people, 5 of us are going to be roaming at all times, coming out of the prairie at people, and then we'll take turns. So you can go ride the hayride with your kids, go back out, that kind of thing.
No, you hit it right on the head.
Yeah, so it's really up to the individual kind of group of how elaborate or how simple they want to make it.
And I have a confession. I've not been on the scary ride. I had tickets last year, but it was so kind of rainy that
It got pretty chilly.
Yeah, we just kind of had to bail because the little ones were getting wet. But where do you do this? Where is it? That I don't know.
So it starts off at.
We start at Station Village Condos, and then for the Scary Hayride, it heads up to off Blazing Star and Harris up to Hedgerow. And so they actually turn and go down the trail along Hedgerow. And that's the length of it where all the scares are kind of positioned across that center prairie and wooded area.
Okay, so it actually goes off road. Okay, that's what I never understood.
So that's another
Yeah.
thing is Douglas and Joe, and they go out and they make sure that there's no branches that are going to poke anybody in the eye on the hayride or
Yeah.
things like that, because you don't want anybody getting whacked in the dark.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I guess, Douglas, you have to figure out which station goes which, first, second, third, or?
Yeah, I mean, I have a map that I've used over the years, like the Google Maps, which is great, right? And I said station 1 is X and station 2 is Y. And at station 1, you have to wait 30 seconds. And we have a little pole that we put in so they know where the truck knows where to stop, et cetera.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, and
It's hard as the driver in the dark. You're trying to, make sure everybody can see. And
Right, because they don't have the headlights on.
yeah,
right?
and again, thank you for being on Hedgerow as well. A lot of people give us power, so we can run our electricity, which is really kind of folks. And
yeah, we know it can be disruptive for the people who live on the route, and so we appreciate that. People are usually really kind about being understanding that it's one night, and we try to be done kind of when the noise ordinance is over and
Yeah.
get everything cleaned up. It's not always, we can't get everything that night, but by the next day, everything's pretty much cleaned up and gone, both at the condos and at the skier stations.
And if I have to say, if I said it before, I'll say it again. I think Gwen has the harder job, honestly, the front end.
Yeah.
You know, the scares, we've been doing it for years. We want more people, obviously, but coordinating all that front end stuff is a little bit,
Yeah.
it's hard.
And your customer service, too, right?
I
So,
am, yeah. So if somebody is unhappy and wants their money back, then I'm the person that has to, coordinates and tries to talk to them and figure out what was going on, or make sure everything goes smoothly and everyone's not, breaking things or doing things that are
Yeah.
unsafe in the area.
Yeah.
And one thing too that I've been trying to kind of put the word out about is that I'm happy to have anybody who wants to contribute something of their own as well. I think Douglas's son is actually going to set up for the Boy Scouts. Their troop is going to set up with their sell the evergreens right
Yeah,
for Christmas.
yeah.
So they're going to set up like a pre-sale booth where you can sign up to do that. In the past, we've had people who've done like tarot card readings, or way back when they would have magicians or balloon animal people, and
Yeah, kind of vendors.
yeah,
right?
and or I would just, if there's a neighbor or somebody in the neighborhood who's like, I want to spend an hour doing like crafts, or I have this fun game that I'd love to set up and play, and you can kind of make your own time if you want to do it and be there.
Mm-hmm.
More than happy to have more activities and more people. So it doesn't have to be something I planned. It can be something else that you can come up with, even like older kids, if you've got teenagers or something that want to set up like a little station of some sort, or if they
Right.
make bracelets and sell
Right,
them.
right.
Or
Are you doing a storytelling station this year? Has anybody volunteered for that yet?
we have not had anyone
Okay.
volunteer for a story station, but that is something that, if somebody wanted to, we'd be more than
Yeah,
happy.
great ideas. Yeah, like bingo or just a little carnival game or
Yep.
just, yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, so if there's anybody who has, I know we had in the past, we've had occasionally people who come set up little informational tables with little activities, and we're more than happy to have people contribute that. And, like I said, Dalton's is participating. Sometimes some of the others, if they're around the other stores, will pitch in. So like at the Holiday Lights, Taryn at the Here's Where It's At salon had like the
that's right.
cookie walk in her salon. So we try to get the businesses involved as well. It's another reason I wanted to move it back to the condos. 'Cause I know some people were a little confused that when it moved last year, because I took it over kind of last minute.
Yeah.
And I just was remembering what it used to be when it was at the condos when my kids were little, and they'd have, pizza, and there were little clementines with jack-o'-lanterns, and there were coloring sheets, and there was a guy, I don't even know who it was. One of our neighbors was dressed in a Hagrid costume, and he had like a full.
Oh,
his
that's so
dog
fun.
had 2 extra heads, like the dog from Harry Potter.
yeah,
Yeah.
Like Fang, and it was so fun, and I have really great memories. And not to mention it being there, you have better lighting, you've got more coverage if the weather's not great, you've got access to electricity, and so we can do things like the haunted hallway, and it just, I think, makes it a little safer and allows for a little more activities.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that park
Yeah.
near the gazebo got really dark.
Yeah,
right.
it did.
It,
We
get-
have
it does
very
get
little
really
street
dark,
lamps
yeah.
over there.
Yeah. I remember that from the first year I went. Yeah, just it seemed like a light switch went off at one point. Just it's dark and
does. It gets
where's
very
your
dark.
kid? Yeah. So Douglas, do you do a dress rehearsal? Like if I did a station, I'd want to practice, I think.
Well, the first we try to. It's hard to kind of get it together because of lighting and sound and everything. The first couple rides are kind of like a trial kind of thing, right? And sometimes we don't get the timing right off, but we just as a scarers, I can speak for everybody. We just have a lot of fun. We have fun with the community. We have fun looking at each other's stations. There's an after party afterwards for the scarers that we usually go to the Zip's house and have a couple adult cocktails.
Oh, that's cool.
Afterwards.
Yeah.
But it's a good. We're always goofing around on the walkie-talkies.
Yeah, and then we usually order some pizza and send it down for the scarers at the start, since they're out there in the cold and in the dark, so that they've got some dinner while they're out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to overstate the obvious, but I want to hear from you guys how this builds community here in Prairie Crossing. Like, what's your take on that?
I think it's such a great activity because it is such a large number of people from the community that come out, and it's all ages. Because a lot of our events throughout the neighborhood, you get kind of subgroups of the neighborhood. The Easter egg hunt is more the younger kids, and you get different kind of 4th of July. There's a lot of the families. There's maybe not so many of the teenagers, that kind of thing. Whereas this event, I think it kind of touches base on a wider group, because you get people who come who are like new couples, just husband and wife that moved to the neighborhood, and they want to come see what it's about. You get the people with the family of 5 kids that all come and ride the hayride and do pumpkins, and I think it's really fun, and the way it's spaced out in the activities, it allows for a range so that the families who do have younger kids can come and have activities and things to do to keep them, busy and entertained. But then there's also things that go on later where if you get a babysitter, you could go drop your kids at home, come back, do some scary rides, and relax a little bit by the fire pit, and like you said, bring a 6-pack or something and hang out for a while, and it's still really fun.
Yeah,
so.
It just shows how dull I can be sometimes. I hadn't thought about that with the babysitter.
We've had on the scare side, we've had kids, if their parent is there, we've had scares, 12 years old all the way up to almost 80. Honestly, so everybody's like running around, having fun, putting makeup on, and it's really a volunteer event, like Gwen said, and it's just, I think it's one of the pillars of Prairie Crossing that we try to bring everybody together.
Yeah,
try to have a little something for everybody.
Right, and I'd agree with that. I mean, that's the way I have felt about it. It's one of our. I don't know that we've missed one. Same thing with Father's Day. Pig roast. We haven't missed one. I planned Father's Day weekend around it. And so this year, what are you going to do? We're going to the beach. That's what we're doing. That's all I want to do.
Yep.
And it's kind of that way with Halloween. I know the kids are talking about it and just going to this and doing it. I hope the weather is a little drier this year. That's all.
All the fingers and toes crossed. I would love for it to be a really nice weather for the event. Even chilly is just dry. Really like dry.
Dry, and I'd like to, again, if any new parents you're intimidated because of the sets, like Gwen said earlier, you can do something very simple, and we'd love to get more scare stations out there. So, last hurrah for the scare stations.
Right. Is there a drop dead deadline? Is when you want? That's a pun. That
you can
know?
contact me the day before, and I'll accommodate.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of that way too with ours. That if you are bringing your stuff and I don't have to set it up for you, then I'm happy if you want to show up and just be like, hey, where can I put my stuff? Like, more than happy to have you pop in and help. And I know, like, some of my kids' friends want to help a little bit with the haunted hallway when they're around there, and kind of wear costumes, and maybe not like full scarers, but like scare juniors.
Start them early, right?
Yeah.
So is there anything that I haven't asked you about that you want to talk about with Frightfest? Because again, I don't have all the questions.
I think for me, one of the things is just, I know sometimes it's hard with events because people get used to something one way. If things change, like we've said, it's changed locations many times. I think you were saying earlier that was at the farm once. It's been at the fire pit gazebo. It's been at the condos, back to the condos, like all over the place. Is be understanding that also everybody helping are volunteers, everybody out doing the scaring, everybody who's setting up and doing everything. We're all just doing it on our free time as volunteers, and that I know sometimes with Fright Fest, I was hearing questions about like, because there's donations for the tickets for the rides, right? Because we do that, but that money goes to cover, permits for the event. It goes to cover if there's a down payment for the food truck to come. It goes to cover if we need more extension cords or lighting for the event or other supplies. If we need straw for the wagon, or we needed to replace some boards in the wagon last year, so it goes to that.
Right.
And it funds the other events throughout the year. It funds the 4th of July. It funds Easter,
popsicles,
Easter,
the cooperation of the bands. It goes to play for the sound and audio
sound guy.
So it's not just for this. It kind of covers those. And I have, if anybody wants more information, they can always ask me. I set up a separate email address and PayPal account that's purely Frightfest, where everything gets
that's
logged.
Smart.
Everything gets logged from it. It's completely separate from everything of mine. So at any point, like if I can't do it anymore, I can easily pass it, and it's all right there for somebody, and all of the history is right there if anybody, because I know sometimes people have questions about that, and I'm all about transparency, so they're more than welcome to ask me questions if they have them.
Do you want to share that email address?
It's pcfrightfest@gmail.com.
Okay, awesome. And Douglas, do you want to give your email address in case people want to join, or?
Douglas Nergy at iCloud.com.
Okay, and Nergy is spelled
Nerge.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Okay.
And Dan, thanks for hosting this and getting the word out. And it's all about volunteers.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm feeling my way with this. I want to highlight our neighbors and the work that's going on behind the scenes and build community. But yeah, I'm still kind of feeling it out. So thank you both for being here.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Well, a big thank you again to Gwen and to Douglas for being on the podcast, and for you for listening to this episode. Fright Fest is Saturday, October 19th from 4 to 10 at the Station Square condos. All the details are in the October Metal Mix that gets mailed to all Prairie Crossing residents. If you have any suggestions for future episodes, or a neighbor who you feel like their story just needs to be shared, reach me at aroundthelakepc@gmail.com. Thanks for listening again, and we will see you in a couple weeks.